Just in trouble.
Trying to understand the minds of regressive leftists and social justice warriors. This is one in a series of videos in which we attempt to fathom the depths, the inscrutable darkness, as it were, the very abyss itself that is the minds of social justice warriors, often abbreviated SJWs, and other regressive leftists. The term regressive left was coined by the liberal Muslim Maji Nawaz and first appeared in print in his book Radical in 2012. Over the years, in various media appearances, he has defined the term in various ways, but a fair summary will be to say the following. The regressive left is the section of the left that is illiberal, that is, left-wingers who do not adhere to liberal principles, the principles of liberty and equality. These are still recognized as being liberal principles in the UK, but in the USA, these principles are more likely to be characterized as classical liberal and/or libertarian. The regressive left tends to be hypocritical about applying these principles, that is, liberty and equality, and they tend to be collectivists believing in group rights rather than equal rights. In other words, they believe that some people should have more rights than others if they belong to certain groups. They tend to be authoritarian, whether they use the government or just mobs to impose their will upon other people. For example, they want the government to pass hate speech laws or stricter gun control on the one hand, and on the other hand, they tend to use mob violence to, well, violate other people's civil rights. They tend to adhere to political correctness. They tend to be very intolerant of those who do not conform to their own views, even going so far as to consider actual liberals to be right-wingers or using racist slurs against people who are not white who don't adhere to their very narrow view. In short, again, the regressive left is the section of the left that is not for equal individual liberty for every person regardless of skin color, sex, etc. They are the illiberal left. For a very in-depth look at the definition and use of the term regressive left in mass media, see the link below to my video about this. Social justice warriors are regressive leftists who actively try to impose their regressive leftism onto others, sometimes through civil disobedience, sometimes through the government or institutions like universities or companies like Starbucks or producers of video games, films, comic books, etc. But not all activists are social justice warriors. You see, I've done my own activist work, many hours of activist work myself in my earlier 20s, but out of principles that some would now call classical liberal or what others call left-wing libertarian, rather than out of regressive left motives. But I digress. All social justice warriors are regressive leftists because they are activists motivated by regressive leftism. But not all regressive leftists are social justice warriors because not all regressive leftists are activists. Note: I just found this video in the vault, so sorry, it's a few months old. The bit about the SPLC having to pay the Quilliam Foundation isn't exactly current news. It's, well, a few months old, but that's okay. It still serves my purpose here to illustrate a point. Open letter to a regressive left friend. Also, Maji Nawaz and the SPLC. This video will have two parallel themes. One is the social level and the other is the personal level. I'll approach these by briefly discussing a current news item. As you may know by now, Maji Nawaz and his organization, the Quilliam Foundation, has won a victory over the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, almost $4 million. You know, I think it's better to use speech against speech rather than lawsuits against speech, or laws against speech, or violence against speech for that matter. But I digress. It's fitting that we discuss Maji Nawaz here because he, who says that he is a liberal by the way, at least in the UK sense of the word liberal, popularized the term regressive left, which he defines as those who are, and that which is, anti-liberal, while trying to be liberal, or at least trying to convince people that they are liberal. In other words, the regressive left is that which is on the left, which is actually anti-liberal. Examples would include, of course, the SPLC and what they're doing to Maji Nawaz, and my friend to whom this is an open letter. And I'll illustrate all this to make it all clear to you. Now, you may also know that the SPLC also falsely labels other people like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, for example. They call her and Maji Nawaz anti-Muslim extremists. Ayaan Hirsi Ali is a moderate who escaped from the oppressive, fundamentalist Islamic community that she lived in Africa and she's now a politician in Europe. I think it's, Denmark, maybe? I forget, I'm sorry. She is also an author and a very eloquent public speaker. I think she should be a model too, but, you know, she's a politician. She does have to have security guards everywhere she goes due to credible death threats against her, multiple death threats against her. She speaks out about the oppression of women in fundamentalist Islamic communities and other injustices, but supposedly she is a anti-Islamic extremist. Oh, I'm sorry, no, it's even worse. An anti-Muslim extremist. That's the actual quote from the SPLC. Anti-Muslim extremists. In reality, Maji Nawaz is a moderate Muslim, a liberal, someone who wants tolerance and equality in Islam for all people, including women, LGBT people. He is very, very far from an anti-Muslim extremist. And the thing is, his record is there. He and Ayaan Hirsi Ali and other people who are falsely accused of these things, they have these long records, books, interviews, videos upon videos, hundreds of hours. It's all there, folks. And you won't find them being anti-Muslim extremists. They have, I mean, it's all public record. It's just, how can the SPLC and people like my friend just blatantly misrepresent something when the public, or in my case, semi-public record is just, it's there. It's there. It's all there going back years in all of these cases. Anyway, the SPLC has been ordered to pay up and they issued an apology, or, well, let's see their video.
The Southern Poverty Law Center was wrong to include Maji Nawaz and the Quilliam Foundation in our field guide to anti-Muslim extremists. Since we published the field guide, we have taken the time to do more research and have consulted with human rights advocates we respect. We've found that Mr. Nawaz and Quilliam have made valuable and important contributions to public discourse, including by promoting pluralism and condemning both anti-Muslim bigotry and Islamist extremism. Although we may have our differences with some of the positions that Mr. Nawaz and Quilliam have taken, they are most certainly not anti-Muslim extremists. We would like to extend our sincerest apologies to Mr. Nawaz, Quilliam, and our readers for the error, and we wish Mr. Nawaz and Quilliam all the best.
So there you go. The SPLC claims to be liberal and they claim to be for justice, but their actions and their words show, well, that's just not the truth. Anyway, let's go to my friend, the addressee of this open letter, who has for years been doing to me what the SPLC has been doing to Maji Nawaz and Ayaan Hirsi Ali and others. As you may know, or perhaps not, for some time now I have been trying to penetrate the inscrutable, labyrinthian density and darkness that is the mind of regressive leftists, with all their games that they play to avoid being honest and sincere when one tries to understand why they think what they think. It's like trying to get rock-bottom truth out of a pathological liar who isn't even honest with themselves anyway. In trying to understand this regressive left mindset in society, I tried to understand specific friends who have these regressive left handicaps, or tendencies, sorry. In trying to understand this regressive left mindset in society, I do try to understand specific friends who have these regressive left tendencies. One of the things that they do that makes people like Maji Nawaz and myself refer to them as regressive left is this. One criticizes the anti-liberal aspects of Christianity, and they agree. But one criticizes the anti-liberal aspects of Islam, and they respond as if you are discriminating against Muslims, as if you are bigoted against a race or something. No matter how clear you explain what you mean, no matter how precisely you pinpoint exactly what you're saying, and even exclude that which you are not saying, they still come at you as if you're being an anti-Muslim bigot. Let's talk about my one particular friend, the addressee of this open letter. I've known her for years. She's smart, she's funny, she has artistic genius, she has great taste in music, in clothing, she's empathetic, she's a beautiful person, and yet a regressive leftist by Maji Nawaz's definition. In other words, she does have some anti-liberal tendencies while thinking that she is liberal. We've shared laughter, we've shared tears. Tabitha moved in with us. My friend got herself an awesome boyfriend and he moved in with us. He's great. We love him too. He too is very artistic, great guy. You know, we all loved each other. We all would do, you know, cute things like make breakfast for each other, or, you know, we were like a bunch of kids or like siblings, and yet adults. I mean, it's really sad that Tabby and I, we did have to move, and the reasons are long and complicated. This is my point. The reason why I'm telling you all that, folks, is to illustrate that my friend knows me well, okay? She knows me well enough. She knew me when I pissed off a bunch of actual neo-Nazi skinheads this one time, who released my address and threatened to come over and... Listen, that's a whole other story. Look, she knows me. That's my point. She knows me, okay? She knows me. She can't deny it. She knows me well enough. So even while all that was going on that I was just describing, well, the whole years that we were friends, over all the years, it's still happening to this day. Even though we would see each other in person, online, for years, she has been doing the following. I'll post something on social media. If you follow me on social media, I'll post something that is critical of the anti-liberal aspects of religions. And she takes issues with those criticisms only when I apply them to Islam. Now, my friend and I, like I said, we're familiar enough with each other's basic views. For example, there's some things that she and I agree on that Tabby and I disagree on, and that her boyfriend, not Tabby's boyfriend, my friend's boyfriend, and I maybe agree on or disagree on. The four of us would talk a lot, sometimes in various combinations we'd agree or disagree. We handled it like adults. So we're kind of familiar. We're all anti-racist, we're all pro-equality, we're all pro-LGBT rights, equal rights for everybody, all that kind of stuff. We just have different ideas of how to get there or to how to support those equal rights and liberties. We're all anti-authoritarian, we're all against oppression, we don't want imperialism, etc. We've even done volunteer work together. We've all, done, well, I don't want to toot horns, but we all care, okay? That's my point. We all care, we have a really good idea about our beliefs and views and our principles. But yet, when I post something critical of a specific anti-liberal aspect of Islam or critical of Islamic terrorism, she takes issue with it as if I'm saying something against Muslims. My friend knows that I am not an anti-Muslim bigot. She knows this. She knows that I criticize the anti-liberal aspects of the right wing, the left wing, Christianity, Islam, whatever. Yet every time I make a very specific criticism of Islam, well, not every time, but whenever she comments, or often enough, when I criticize specific things about the religion, she, like many other people, react as if I'm saying something against Muslims. Basically, it goes like this. I make a valid criticism against religion, she responds with something like, Muslims aren't bad people, I know some Muslims, they're good people. And then I point out that I didn't even mention Muslims. Or I point out that I'm making a specific criticism of a specific aspect of a religion, and she responds with something like, it comes across as anti-Muslim bigotry. And I respond by pointing out that I make myself quite clear, and she says something, something a regressive leftist would say, and round and round and round we go. And then when I try to stop that cycle and ask her why she thinks I'm saying things that I'm not saying, she then kind of backs up, retreats, doesn't answer, changes the subject, I don't hear from her, whatever, So this goes on and on, this goes back years, and there's a long record. It's all there. This is what she does, over and over. And, Tabby. You know what I just thought of, Tabby? What our friend does to me, what she's been doing to me for years, is, in principle, exactly like what that, I think her name was Kathy Newman, did to Jordan Peterson in that famous clip. The one where he would say, well, I believe in sexual equality. And she's like, so what you're saying is men are superior to women. And he's like, no. And I believe that men and women should be free to make whatever choices they want to make when they go to work. And she's like, so what you're saying is women should just stay home and be barefoot and pregnant. And he's like, no. And it became a thing where millions of people watch the clip because it is just so funny watching this woman hear one thing and then say, so what you're saying is, right? That's just like our friend. Yeah. It's just like our friend. I think Islamic terrorism is bad. So what you're saying is Muslims are all bad. No, I'm not. I'm saying Islamic terrorism. But it sounds like you're saying that. No, it doesn't. It doesn't sound like that at all to anyone who's sane or can read. But what you're saying is that Muslims are... No, I am not, my friend. You know it. Everybody knows it. And the thing is, when Kathy Newman did that to Jordan Peterson,
she was clueless. But to everybody else, it was hilarious. It was hilarious watching this woman be that fucking clueless.
Dishonest and completely clueless about it.
Well, yes, number one, she's being dishonest, and she knows it, like our friend. And number two, this woman was so clueless that she thought somehow she would be able to convince other people out there. When it's so obvious that she was just flat out lying.
Yeah. Well, she didn't have
but the thing is, she was so... What?
She didn't have anything to stand on. That's why she just kept going back to the same thing. She didn't bother to actually research this, man. If she had, she'd have known better. But she's a fucking idiot.
Right. So, am I wrong? Isn't it very much like what our Fred does to me?
Yeah.
It's that silly. The thing is, it's just, okay, she, just like Kathy Newman, may think, well, I could get away with this, people won't know, I could fool people. But no. The fact that you think you can is embarrassingly ignorant. I mean, I'm kind of embarrassed for you. It's that silly. It really is it's that ridiculous.
It's true.
And by the way, my friend, if you don't know who we're talking about, it's somebody who became an international embarrassment and the punchline of a joke because she does, or she did, to what Jordan Peterson, what you've been doing to me for years. It's that silly. Here, I'll show you a little bit.
You're saying you've done your research and women are unhappy dominating men.
I didn't say they were unhappy dominating men.
But you're saying basically it doesn't matter if women aren't getting to the top because that's what's skewing that gender pay gap, isn't it? You're saying, well, that's just a fact of
No,
life.
it's saying
Women
it
aren't
doesn't
necessarily
matter.
going to get to the top.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter either.
You're saying
I'm
it's a
saying
fact
there are
of life.
multiple reasons for it.
So you were saying that by and large, women are too agreeable to get the pay rises they deserve.
No, I'm saying that that's one component of a multivariate equation.
But you're saying, I mean, the pay gap between men and women exists, but you're saying it's not because of gender, it's because women are too agreeable to ask for pay rises. So
It's one of the reasons.
Okay, one of the reasons. So you're saying that anyone who believes in equality, whether you call them feminists, call them whatever you want to call them, should basically give up because it ain't going to happen.
Only if they're aiming at equality of outcome.
You're saying that's fine.
No, I really
The
think
patriarchal
I
system
really
is
think
just
that's
fine.
silly.
The
I think
patriarchal
that's- I
system
really
is
think
just
that's
fine.
silly.
Women aren't intelligent enough to run these top companies?
No, I didn't say that at all.
You said that you were saying that
Weren't
intelligence
female
and
traits.
conscientious by implication are not female traits.
No,
I mean,
I'm not
that's very
saying that.
dangerous territory.
I'm not saying that at all.
Are women less
There's-
intelligent than men, by and large?
No, they're not.
You're just saying,
So if you want-
what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that at all. You're actually not listening.
That, so you're saying that we're really saying.
Okay, you get the picture yet? Yeah, see, that's what it seems like when you make those comments, my friend. You really do come across as that ridiculous.
And now, Womansplaining with Tabitha.
Womansplaining with Tabitha.
We recently have seen in the news that the Southern Poverty Law Center has to pay Maji Nawaz, who is a moderate Muslim, not an anti-Muslim radical, but a moderate Muslim who is against radical Islam and terrorism. They have to pay him money now because they've been lying about him and misrepresenting him. And anyone can go and read books by this person. He writes articles, he goes on television a lot, he does a radio show, a podcast for hours and hours a week. I challenge anyone to go and find him saying something that is anti-Muslim bigotry. A ridiculous idea. It's all there, but yet the Southern Poverty Law Center, like they do with other people like Ayan Hirsi Ali and etc., call him some sort of a anti-Muslim radical or extremist or something like that.
Something like that. They basically just straight out defamation of character.
Yeah.
He's a reformist, and therefore he doesn't count in the eyes of, fake liberals or wannabe liberals. You see a lot of people doing now where they try and purposely deny the evils that is Islam by trying to say you're just racist or you're just being a bigot. They try to brush it off. A lot of them are actually just right fighters and they just want to look good, or they want to feel that they're on the right side. They want to be, I'm good.
Well, it's what we refer to when we say social justice warriors. So, you know, I'm not getting any sort of honest answer out of our friend here.
Of course
and
not.
You are, you know, none of us is impartial in a situation because we're all close to each other.
Yeah.
But you do have a third perspective that is not mine or hers. And you've lived with us for a long time. You've seen the things that we say to each other online, etc., and so forth. Any thoughts on this whole thing? Of like, you know, basically the basic question is, why do they do that?
They can't help themselves. Like I said, like our friend, you know, like with many other people, she does it not because she knows the facts. Like, she doesn't know every ins and outs of what she believes. It's mostly based upon what is socially required.
Right.
What do the people in the circle that she travels in think? How do they think?
So, we do have the social level. We all know what goes on. We have the personal level with this particular friend. And I don't understand all my attempts so far to get her to try to explain why she does what she does, to help me to understand why people like her do what they do. So far, those efforts have failed. And I want to know what you folks think. I also want to know what our friend thinks. And I'm totally more than willing to give her my platform, which I have in fact earned. Both through hard work and also through risk of personal safety. With all the death threats, you know.
And the thing is like, if you all knew us, you'd know that we're not angry.
No.
We're not, like, mad or anything stupid like that. We love her. We will always love her.
Yeah.
We just disagree with her, and her form of disagreeing back is semi-disrespectful and childish.
Yeah, and that's what, as far as the personal level is concerned, the reason why I've been throwing down the gauntlet and saying, no, I'm not going to let it go this time, is because it gets to the point where if somebody is disrespectful to you over and over again, you can love them, but at a certain point you have to say, well, I also love myself, so I'm not going to let you do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to let her do that.
Yeah. You
It's
have
as
to have
simple
enough
as that.
respect for yourself.
Right.
That's how it works.
Right, and, you know, does anybody fault me for that? If so, try to explain yourselves.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't see how standing up for your opinion or your thoughts is wrong. And if you have a friend who you feel has disrespected you in conversation or behind your back, whatever,
Chronically, in this case.
the best thing you can do is be understanding, but be stern. It's like, no, in this case, I would say, yes, be stern, because, well, repeat offense. I love you, but you can't walk on me in that way.
Yeah.
It's not fair. It's like, I love you, and therefore I am going to show you my love by stating a line and expecting you to love me enough not to cross it.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
And I also think
you
she
know.
can handle it. I think enough of her.
Yes.
I think she's a big enough of a person to be able to deal with this.
Thanks for watching. No, okay.
This has been Womansplaining with Tabitha.
Now, I want to know what you folks think about this situation. Do you have any friends like this? Have you ever gotten through to a person like this? And is there any hope for just SJWs that you meet, people who think that they're fighting for justice, who are actually fighting against justice? Is there any hope of getting through or even beginning to understand the minds of such people if they play such games, even if they have been your friend for years? Is there any hope? Hey, my friend, I'm asking you, what hope is there if you play these games, if you're this dishonest every time when I call you out and point out what you're obviously doing, and you make a flat-out denial of what you're obviously doing, and you won't explain why you do what you do because you won't admit that you do it? What hope is there to get over this misunderstanding where people confuse racism against Arabian people with criticism of Islamic terrorism, or other issues where such things are confused, as you do confuse them? You know, you confuse imperialism with capitalism, you confuse authoritarianism with liberty. What hope is there to unravel these confusions if you just won't be
honest.
You know what I say, folks? I love you all. Until next time, peace, love, freedom, and equality.